Welcome to the next session of your distance learning series. And this week's session is going to be talking about games and more, which I'm very excited about. But first, we have to get disclaimed.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
All right. Well, I'm Sarah Brightwell. I think I know most everybody on today. So little change of pace. I know normally you get to spend time with Olani and with Tracy for the distance learning series, but this week I'm subbing in to talk to you a bit more about games. So we're going to explore some tools and resources that you can use to create virtual games for your students and even your staff. We'll talk about the pros and cons of some of these different game options, depending upon what you want to do with gaming, and then how to create virtual games that can address academic, language, or even cultural content. So really whatever it is you're trying to incorporate. So to kick off, I would love to know a bit about how you currently use games, whether it was kind of pre-pandemic when you were still in person, or how you've been using them this year when you might have been in person or hybrid or virtual or any combination thereof. So what types of games are you typically playing in your program? And you can share that over in the chat box. If you're not sure where that chat box is, normally it's at the bottom of your screen and you'll see a little talk bubble, and that will open up that chat box. All right, so Jamie's been doing Kahoot type games for students and staff. Yeah, and those are always really popular. And Helen also using the Kahoot, okay. And what types of content are you wanting to incorporate into games? Whether you've been doing it or maybe you're just interested in, you're thinking, I'd like to put this into a game. I see Patricia's been using Kahoot. Kahoot's always really popular. It's nice and easy to use, very affordable because the free package really has most of what everyone needs. All right, so some review for tests. Oh, using it to get input on activities, definitely. And are your participants, whether you're using it with students or staff, are you normally playing individually or are you playing in teams? And I know a lot of times if you're playing virtually with at-home learning, you're probably playing individually. Oh, some both. Okay, great. Lots of both. All right. Okay, that is super helpful. And if you're still typing away, keep sharing. We'll keep adding that info in too. I want to talk a little bit too about why you would even want to use games, because I know some of you may be thinking, well, I haven't really explored using games, particularly not virtually. So some of the reasons that can be helpful to incorporate some games, whether again, virtual or even once you're back in person, they can really help to keep your students' attention and even your staff's attention. It can increase overall motivation, whether it's motivation for learning or participation in general. It's also a great way to provide a review of concepts or terms. It can be a lot less stressful than sometimes handing out like a review worksheet or something that seems a little more test-like. This is more fun because it's a game. So it takes away some of that stress. And it also promotes teamwork and cooperation while also providing an avenue for controlled competitiveness. So we can be competitive, but we can be friendly about it. And we can keep that in a positive framework. Now, as we look at the different options today for game creation, and we think about how we're going to actually be using games, there are a couple of things to kind of consider when selecting one of these options and what you're going to do. One being your age level. So we'll talk about some options today that could work anywhere from early childhood up through your staff, but some of them work a little bit better for maybe your early learners, and some of them work a little bit better for your older learners. You also want to think about the attention span of your learner. So if you design a game that's going to take an hour, are the folks that are playing that really going to be able to stay engaged in that game for an hour? Depending upon what it is, maybe, but just really thinking that piece through. And the game complexity. So of course, with our early learners, we want to keep the game complexity down. But also, if we're even working with our older learners, if we know that maybe we're working with staff and our staff are not super tech savvy, then we might want to keep the game complexity a little lower to make it easy for them to manipulate the game and focus on the content. Whereas maybe a junior high or high school student who's a little more used to an online environment and used to online games, we could probably up the complexity a little, and they're going to be ready for that and enjoy that. And then I know, many of you are saying, you've used this both team and individual. So we'll talk about some of these options and which ones are a little bit better for teams and a little bit better for individual play. And then the purpose of the game. So some of these games will lend itself better to certain types of content. So some might be better for if you're practicing vocabulary or key terms versus if you're wanting students to maybe produce work on their own. So just some things to think about as we look at these different options. All of the options also I want to point out are either completely free or have a robust free option. So some of them, just like with a lot of things, have other things you can upgrade to if you want to pay for it. And you may decide you like it enough that that is worth putting into your budget. But all of them do have a good free option. And that's why we selected them. So let's hop into our first option. This one is called Doozy. It's a newer one. And feel free to pop in the chat box if you've ever tried doing a Doozy, but it tends to be one that not as many people have seen, but it's really user friendly. So let's flip over to that. So I want to show you how this works. So this is our Doozy. When we're looking at this, you can see I've already logged in. You can log in using basically anything you want with your Facebook, with your email, or you can just create an account from scratch. But accounts are free. It's just a username and a password. And then this is what it looks once you're in. So any of the quizzes that you've previously played, you're able to click here and access those. Or you can create a brand new activity here, and that's what we're going to do. And you can see it's already going to give me some options. It's like, hey, did you want to use one of these pre-made ones? No, I do not. And you can create a quiz or you can create an event. We'll start with a quiz so you can see what that is. So you can see you can search for questions and they'll suggest things. You can go into categories or get popular questions. Most of the time though, you know what you want your game to be about. So you're going to be creating your own. So we can title it, and this is just going to be our test game. So we've got that all set, and then come over here to this big button for create your own question. So depending upon whatever you want to do, you can just put a pure question. You can add an image. You can add a GIF, which is one of those images that like moves over and over the same way. Or you can actually look for an image. So this would be if you already have an image you want to use. This would be if you want to look for an image. So when you click that, notice it's going to search for you. So if I want a picture of buffalo, well, let's see. I kind of like this guy because he's pretty hairy. He's pretty cute. So I can add him in. And I can say, what is the word for buffalo in, let's say, Apache? So if you're working on native language vocabulary, You can assign points. So maybe this is a newer word. So I want to give my participants 5 points for this one because they just learned this word. You can also change it. So see here, I can do multiple choice, or I can make it where it's just an answer and they have to type it in exactly. So again, depending upon, your learners, if you want them to have to be able to type in the word exactly as it is, and I'll be honest, I do not remember the word for buffalo in Apache, so we're just going to put buffalo. They would have to type it in exactly like that. They could mess up on the capitalization, but they would have to spell it right in order to get it. So depending upon, again, your group, whether that's a great option or not, or you can go with the multiple choice and you could put in, is this a buffalo? Is this a goat? Or is this a bear? And I'm going to, oh, not a beet, a bear. And okay, it's a buffalo. And then I save that question. And all right, you can now see in round 1, I have this question. You can continue adding these, doing all these different things. And notice the find a GIF is also, you can find one. You don't have to have that on your own. And then you can just do as many questions as you want. We'll make this one where you have to know the exact one. Oh. Okay. Now you'll see it's going to alert you that it's missing an image. You don't have to have an image, but it knows it's more fun if there's an image. Now, you can always, like I said, pop in any of these. You don't have to. Let me get rid of this little piece as well so we can see. So if I'm done now, I can come over here and I can test it. Now I can even put a cover photo, but I'm just going to go straight to testing it. It's going to load and think. Your players, when they come in, get to pick one of these adorable avatars. So we'll be the singing dinosaur. And they come in. There we go. Get the countdown. And you're in. So this is how it would show up for your players. This is exactly what they would see. So they would look at this and think, oh, this is an adorable goat. So I'm going to intentionally get this one wrong. I submit it. It's scoring. It's like, oh no. Definitely not a goat. I did not quite get that one. Lets me go to the next one. I happen to know that the answer to this is the answer. So I'll get this one right. And yay. And then I can finish. And it'll put together a leaderboard of everybody that's been playing your game. So you can see it doesn't give you a ton of question types, but it's a really nice, simple way to be able to make a quick game. We'll get back out here. Now, once you want your students or your staff to participate, you hit this invite someone. You can get an invite link that you could then hand out to students or email to them, or however you typically communicate with them, share it in your Zoom chat box, or you can invite them by email. So either with the link or by email, and you send those out. So that's how you get people into your quiz. It's also something that I've seen people where they actually let their students use this to create like a review game on something, because it's really simple enough and easy enough that students are able to create their own, and it doesn't ask for any identifying information. So it's something they can do without having to put in any information you wouldn't want them to put in. All right, we're going to go back to Doozy in general and say we're going to add an activity. This time we're going to create an event. So if I create an event, This is again where we could get online together and do an activity. So in your activity name, a few details, the time and date, again, all the same options for uploading or searching for an image or a GIF. Create that activity, and then you can start inviting people. So adding those folks. So examples of this, you probably saw, let me go back so you can see some of the activities that they had in here. So some of their activities, they were getting together for maybe a yoga class. So you can schedule these activities and then have people join you to take part. So just other ways that you can use this. I've primarily used it for the game creation, but it does have that other event piece as well. And then the last piece of this is that you can also go in and look at games that other people have created just that same way. So we were looking at activities, but you can go over and look at quizzes. They really run the gamut. So just depending upon what you might be looking for, you can always try going through and seeing if there's some quiz that already exists that you can take and start from. They do have tons, but it definitely is a interesting array of ones that they have pre-made. Any questions on the Doozy? And if you think
Question,
yeah,
Sarah, it's
yeah.
Renuka here.
Hi.
So, hi. There's no time frame, right? With
No.
Kahoot, yeah, that I like that in a sense. I mean, Kahoot is really fun. Kids really like it, but this could be really good for a form of formative assessment.
Mm-hmm.
When there is no time frame, then they'll take their time and answer the question.
Yeah.
And then you still know it's not so competitive as the other.
Yeah, it's definitely not nearly as competitive. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with this is because it is super simple, you don't get real robust analytics out of it.
No.
But, particularly for formative and for kids to be able to work on their own to review concepts, I think it works really well.
I think this is good for assessment as it's happening, are you covering? And if not, how to graduate to the next level. Okay. I just wanted to know that because I've never seen this before. Sounds interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. No, trying to bring some new games around. All right, let's hop to the next one. And we'll just stay here and go directly to Flippity. So Flippity is another one. Again, if you've seen it before, I'm always curious. Feel free to pop that in the chat box. The top always has this. You can just scroll right past it. And this really, in one sentence, sums up exactly what Flippity does. It takes a Google spreadsheet and turns it into games. And that's the most basic explanation for this. So it has a bajillion different things that you can make out of whatever information you have. Anything from simple basic flashcards to like a Jeopardy style show. This one's neat, if you're always having to maybe pick a student to this and pick a student to do that, it will actually make you a little wheel and you can click the wheel each time and it will select a student for you, which is just kind of a fun way to do that. This randomizer, so let's click on that. We'll do the demo. You can put all these different things, different categories, and you can create the categories you want. And then pick, which can be really fun, depending upon how you set this up. Like this one, I think would be great if you wanted a student to maybe come up with a story. So a small child has a personality conflict. Seems a little deep. Tomorrow in a laboratory. And so, you could take off with maybe some creative writing or storytelling around that, but you can also change these categories. So you can change the categories and you can change what's in each of these categories, but it sets this up for you. So with all of these, they're set up that there's that demo so you can see how it works, like the little random name picker. It's Denzel's turn. Ta-da. And you'll see it's got the spinner in there. It'll also make groups for you. So you can put in all your kids and then just pick how many groups do you want? You want groups of 5? Do you want to divide your kids into 4 teams? Do you want to make a seating chart? It'll do all that for you. And you can see again in the demo, if you go into instructions, it tells you exactly how to set it up. And then template is going to actually open a Google spreadsheet that will guide you on how to enter your info. So for instance, for that random name picker, it'll ask you, do you want to make a copy of this template? Because they don't want you to mess up their template. We let it think. I think things are thinking a little longer today because of the storm. And you'll see it's got a random name picker. And all I have to do is put my names in here. So I'm going to switch out some so you know that it's really working. I'm going to plug some of us in. So Renuka's in class, and Rashad, and Tracy, and Alani. Let's see, Natalie, Sherry, Jamie, Steve. So we've changed a few. We'll delete these other kiddos. I just have a small class. You can even put their little photos in. And then I go to the tab that says Get Link Here. So notice it's always going to warn you that you have to remember to publish your spreadsheet in order for this to work. So anytime you want to publish a spreadsheet to make your Flippity work, you go to File, Publish to the Web. Hit Publish again. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And okay. So now I can click here and it's made a beautiful wheel of my students that will work just like the one we saw in the demo. And again, it also has the option, it'll divide my kids into groups of 3. It'll make me a nice little seating chart, a lineup list. We can see who's in line. So it has all kinds of things like that. So we'll go back to Flippity. Here we go. So I want to show you a couple of the other ones. There's a scavenger hunt. There's a board game. We're going to come back to this because I think this is the neatest one personally. You can make some manipulatives, a matching game, timeline bingo, all kinds of things. A little spelling word manager, make word searches and crossword puzzles. You can make your own Mad Libs, all kinds of fun things. But the one that I definitely, lots of neat ones, but I think this board game is the coolest. So that's what I'm going to make sure to show you. So if we go to demo, so you can see what the board game would look like. And this is an opportunity for you to create a board game about literally whatever you want. So you'll see it has the little playing pieces. It has the starting line, the finish line, all of these little info buttons tell you what to do on that space. So I move forward 6 spaces if I land on that, or if I land on the blue 5, I move forward 2 spaces. You see some of these have little icons, so you can change up your game spaces however you want. You'll notice there's a dice here. If I hit that hand, I can roll the dice, and you can actually have 2 dice. This particular example just has the 1. It's also got chance cards, kind of like Monopoly. So you can provide correct answers to your questions. What's the square root of 16? Click the check mark to answer. So it could be the question on the card is, what's the square root of 16? So I think it's 4. It's 4. So that means I get to move forward 5 spaces. It'd make more sense if I got to move forward 4 spaces, but that's just me. And it's different every time. So you can add these little equations on your card. You can embed a YouTube video and have them actually watch a little video on your topic. You can use this Desmos app to actually graph out something that you want them to look at or possibly answer a question about. You can include a link where they have to click and go somewhere. Add images. Add a Google Drawing. That might be the last one. Let's see. Yeah, now we're just going back through. Okay, so those are the different types of things that you can put on your cards. So all of this is customizable. So we're going to go back. You've seen the demo. Yes, I want to leave. And I'll show you how easy it is to actually create your own. So we have to make a copy again. And you'll see, now remember, if I go back, there are instructions. So it literally will walk you step by step through anything you might want to do in here. Okay. And it'll put in red anything to make sure and remember, which is any cell with a blue background, don't mess with it. That's what makes your board game. So we'll come back over here and you can see I can actually change the colors of those spaces. So I could make them all the same color. I could do different colors. You can see where they were using those pictures. You can include a link to a picture yourself, and then that will become your actual square on your game board. Then anytime you want there to be instructions on that space, the one with the little eye, then you're actually going to put those instructions here in the instruction column. So anywhere you were seeing that, it's because it had something in this instruction column. Okay. You can do the card decks. So you can have 2 card decks, just like Monopoly has the 2 card decks, you can have 2. So I am going to put something here just so you can see what an extra card deck would look like. So just example 1, move 6 spaces. Example 2, go back 3 spaces. And example 3, jump ahead of your nearest competitor. Okay, so now we'll have 2 decks. Under materials, tokens are the things that you're moving to be able to play your game. On the dice, you can see it, they've got it already set up. So if I want more dice, up to 3, I want 2 dice. I don't want to get carried away, but I just want it to look like a normal die. So I'll just copy and paste that to make 1 more die there. What color do I want my card deck? So 1 will be blue and 1 will be green. Well, maybe I want that one to actually be red. So let's change that. And it's set to a question mark and exclamation point. You can change those images to whatever you want. You can change the font that'll be on things. So we'll pick Poppins because that sounds fun. And then we'll go here to actually be able to create our game. So remember, we always have to publish whatever Flippity we've created. So file, publish to the web. Publish, okay. And now I can go to my link right here, and I should have a board game customized exactly the way I want it. Now, we didn't customize a whole lot, but you'll notice now, just by typing in the word red, my cards are now red. And there's 2 decks. And you can see example 2, go back 3 spaces. So I could have put in whatever question I wanted or directions. And it randomly sorts them. That's why it's now example 3, jump ahead. You can see I now have 2 dice that we can roll to see how we're going to go. And you can move your little people wherever and have your very own board game. So like I said, Flippity has lots of different games that you can create just like this. Everything they have is completely free. There is not some upgrade option. Literally everything is completely free. So I encourage you to kind of check it out and play with it. It has a lot of really nice features that are very simply laid out. Questions on the Flippity? Let's see. And I see Jamie was sharing about flowcharts. Yeah, and using diagrams.net or appdiagrams.net. Yeah, and you can make custom flowcharts. Very nice. All right, so I'm going to close our magical board game. Yes, we'll leave our magical board game here. Yeah, so you can see you can go through and play with any of those. They are all completely free and easy to set up. The other thing I'll show you here is you can actually skip the spreadsheet for some of the more simple ones. So if you just have like a list of terms, whether that's a list of student names or maybe a list of vocabulary words, you can just plug them in this box and create some of the more simple ones. So if you just want to quickly create a word scramble or a bingo game or a word cloud or a random name picker, and you don't want to fiddle with the spreadsheet, you can just pop it in here, click that. And let's say I wanted to make a bingo card. It'll automatically come over and it's made me 20 bingo cards. Now my bingo card's not full because I didn't give them enough words. You'll see it just automatically did that for me. So if you have a list of terms and you're just having students maybe work with vocabulary on something, that's an easy way to super quickly use one of the options that they have available. And the other tab they have here are the e-learning. So they recommend which ones they think work really well for students who are solely online. And these as well, ones that they think are good for study aids, ones that they think are helpful for teachers. And then depending upon how you set it up and how your students interact, that these would be good either in person or virtual. So you have options there. All right. Now remember, if you have any questions as we're going along, I know we're kind of doing just a general overview, but please feel free to pop those in the chat box. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. All right. Now we're going to head over to TinyTap. Now, I know on some of the previous webinars, we'd had some requests in particular for things that would be a little bit more functional for some of our early learners. Now, TinyTap, you can work for, again, anything up through adults, but it does definitely have some added functionality that can be helpful for our youngest learners. So here's TinyTap. Now, if I go, I'll show you an example. We'll go back to the general TinyTap here. And they have lots of existing kind of games and stories. This has such a robust set of kind of existing ones that depending upon what you're working on with your students, they may have something already created that you might want to just use potentially. So you can see it'll break it down by we're working on our numbers, we're working on math, we're working on matching, colors, kinder focused, has all kinds of different options there. You can also, across the top, they have various categories. And you can see stories, early childhood, but if you click over those three dots, here's all the different things that they have as far as categories. So you can see there's a lot of different options of existing pieces, but just to kind of show you what it looks like, let's look at living and non-living things. So once it loads, it has the little tiny tap play button that will play the intro to your TinyTap.
Welcome to Living and Non-Living Things with Millie and Finn in a backyard exploration. Millie and Finn are exploring their backyard. Can you help them find living things?
So I'm going to turn off the music so you can hear me. But so you'll see that was one slide.
Welcome to Living and Millie and Finn are exploring their backyard. Can you help them find living things?
And so each one just works as individual slides in your game or in your story. And so now that we're here, they've asked us to find living things. Well, I'm pretty sure this dog is living. So if I click on...
That's right. The dog is a living thing.
So it's an actual clickable interactive slide where they can then be sharing this information.
Great. The butterfly is a living thing. Yes, trees and tap and listen.
So then this one's set up a little bit different. I don't have to find something. They want me to tap and listen. So
all living things reproduce.
It goes through.
All living things need water and food to survive. All living things breathe. So, what would be a non-living thing? Tap on it.
And so we won't go through the whole lesson of living and non-living things, but that way you get an idea. This is how the slides work. And so you can set up your slides to work similarly. So let's go back and say that we're going to create our own. And we'll go into the example I started here on animal vocabulary. So actually, I want to edit this. So let me go back. So I'm going to click the little pencil because I want to edit. So now we're in. If you hit the little slides here at the bottom, you can see all the slides that are in your game or in your story so far. So for mine right now, I have 3 slides. Okay, so I'm on my first slide. And you'll see I can change the style. So if I wanted to change the background, and it has like those plain color ones, but then it has other fun things. Maybe I want something festive like this. You can also then choose a layout. So right now I had it in this little deck like this. It has all kinds of different layouts that you can select, even these little cute colorful ones. So let's say, yeah, let's change it up. So I'm going to go this route now. So I had already uploaded these pictures. If I click on them, I can actually change them. Now, this is one thing that tricked me the first time I used TinyTap. I could not figure out how to change the size of my picture because I couldn't see these little gray dots because my pictures were so big. So when your pictures first come on, they're really big and it's hard to see, but there are dots in every corner and you can grab any of those dots and size your picture. So I'm going to pop my fish over here and my word fish, because at least in Texas, this is what fish look like. And I've got my cute little dog. We'll move him over. Fish is kind of covering up my number 1 there. There we go. Then we're going to resize my deer. Okay, so now maybe I've got that set up how I'd like. You can search. So if I want to look for an image, maybe I wanted to add a 5th one. And so maybe now I'm going to look for an eagle. And it's going to bring up options. So This one looks pretty adorable as an eagle. And like I said, see how he comes up really big? But if you click on him, you'll get these little gray dots and you can change up your eagle there. You can also hit the little picture, and that's where you can upload pictures. So that way, if maybe you have a picture that you just took and you want to use, you can use that, or if you've already downloaded a picture. And then you have the font tool where I can now add eagle. You can decide if you want it bold, italic, you can underline it. You can change the color. So maybe I want to do this nice color bold, change the font, I'll make it really big. Not nearly as big, bigger than the other. Now I see it didn't change it. So I got to go back in, edit my text, highlight it, bold, the fun color. There we go. Now I've got my eagle. So you can set up your slide however you like. Then you're going to set up your activities. So right now I have this set up as a soundboard. So because it's a soundboard, it's actually going to be a shape. So I'm going to pick that the part I want clickable is this dog. But we can also change that. So we can play and see. It'll give you a little demo of what your slide's going to do. And you see it showed me that I should pick dog, but I didn't put anything on my slide to really make that make sense. So let's get back and we'll change that. So if you decide I've set up my activity, but I didn't set it up the way I like, you go back to those little two slides at the bottom. And underneath your existing slide, there's always these three dots. You can hide that slide, you can duplicate it, you can save it as an image, or you can clear the activity or delete the slide. Well, I just want to clear the activity because I want to set up my activity differently. So now you'll see it says set activity. So that means now I can pick how I want to set up this slide. I can ask a question. I can create a soundboard, and a soundboard would be when they're clicking on different parts of the slide, they'll hear different things. I can make a puzzle. I can say something. Maybe I'm reading that slide aloud like a story. I can do a video, or I can do something where students can talk or type. So I'm going to show you soundboard first. I think particularly for younger learners, this is kind of a neat option. Looks like I might have freaked out the computer because nothing is happening. All right. The joys of technology. There we go. Okay, it says soundboard now, but we never set anything up. Okay. So I'm going to trace around my fish. Yeah. Thankfully, it fixes my very poor drawing. And now I can record. I can also put a little short description, or I can even have, if kids click there, that it will prompt them to jump to a different slide so they can hop around in your game even. So I can record and I could say, how do you say fish in Ojibwe? And then when I'm done, I hit that little stop. And I can even put, if I want, I can practice and hear what it says. And I could say, how do you say? We won't listen to that whole thing. But okay, if that's exactly how I want it, then I'm like, okay, great. Now, there we go. So let me slow that down. Back on the little icon here. We can record instructions. You know how when we first clicked on the one about live and non-live things, it automatically played something? So I can insert that and I can say, find the animal that we would likely catch and fry for dinner. And then that would be the directions for, say, that slide. The kids would hopefully know that that's a fish, click there, and then they would get those additional directions for what to do specific to the fish. You can let them do this slide one time, or you can set it off and then they can do that slide as many times as they want. You can let it show hints. So if they're clicking somewhere and it's not the clickable part of the slide, then it will give them a hint. It can give them a hint from the get-go, which is where it was, remember, it was highlighting the dog. So we'll leave that on, and then confetti when you get it right. So let's say that's how I want that. So, okay, now let's test it. So now when you come to this slide, find the animal that we would likely catch and fry for dinner. And then you saw a little hint came up. So if I click over here, see how it highlights again? It's giving me a hint like, no, that's not it. No, it is not the buffalo. No, it is not the dog. But what if I do pick the fish? Bird. And I could say, how do you say fish in Ojibwe? And then when I'm done, and it's my little direction, you notice the written one comes up almost as if the fish is talking to me. Which animal is commonly a pet? And this is the next slide that was already pre-set up, but I know it's my dog. So I get the little confetti there as well. All right, so we'll click out of there. So let's show you a couple of other options in there. So like for slide 2, I had this one set up as a question. So with this one, because it's a question, the question is read as they come on the slide and then they pick the answer. And then just to show you a couple of other options, we'll go down to this one. So this one was set up as a talker type. Oh, hit it too soon. So you'll see I have the buffalo set up as my answer here. What is the word for buffalo? So again, there's a question read, and then the students can actually type in their answer. So they're able to do that piece there. Now, another option, and we'll just duplicate and use the same basic slide design, but we'll clear the activity. So you can see we tried out talker type, tried out ask a question, we tried out soundboard. What about puzzle? And so let's say we're going to do this as our, I really thought I could draw a circle better than this until I started trying to do this. Let's say this be a triangle. Okay. And so then you could actually have them do it as a puzzle. And this is the type of response they would get if they pick the correct shape or the correct picture. But I'm going to change it up. No. It is not currently. letting me delete the activity. Okay, we'll delete that too. We'll just add a brand new slot then. All right. So we'll set the activity here. Now it's going to make me, it's going to force me to put something on there. All right, so we'll quickly pick some sort of festive design. And we'll get a good picture here of a turtle. We'll stick with our animal theme. And that's a whole lot of turtles, so we'll go with that. I apologize. We're having storms today, and I'm pretty sure it has enraged the internet. All right, we'll go back into my create space, my animal vocabulary game. Oh. Okay. All right, we'll try this again. I would like a turtle. Maybe it wants an aquatic turtle, but I'll like that better. Okay, so now I've got my little turtle here. So the last couple of options here, you could read about the turtle. So you could literally just have it play something as the turtle comes on the screen. You can also do a video. So when you do the video, you can enter whatever YouTube link you want, and it will actually insert it here on your slide and play directly on your slide. So lots of options within the Tiny Tap. It's really something to kind of just play around with, but really you're just setting up each slide the way you would like with whatever directions you would like. And then students can play that through. And like I say, you can set it up where they can play it through once, or they can play it over and over and over, which can also be a great way for them to be able to continue practicing on their own. So just kind of a fun, different way to be able to do that. Any questions on the Tiny Tap? And it does actually also work on phones and tablets as well. I know some of them sometimes have trouble with that, but this works just fine on those other devices. All right. So we're going to go to our last game creating option, which is Oodloo. We have one other kind of bonus thing at the end, but this is the last one for game creation. So Oodloo is just another option to be able to create games for your classes, for your students, for your staff. So you'll see in here, the first thing, manage groups. This is how you can actually add students. You can create a group. So I've already created one group, and since I'm on the free, I can only have one group, which is my class A. But once I'm in class A, you'll see you can add other teachers. So if you have a co-teaching situation, you can always add other instructors, and you can add your students. Now, to add students to the group, because it is the free account, they will have to go to Oodloo and put in this code, and that's how they'll join your game. Okay. Once you're in, though, we can go back to the dashboard. So you've got your students in, they've joined. So you can actually go to content and games and either search for an existing game that you maybe want to use or take and start from and then change up, or you can create your own. So we'll create our own, and it can be our test game. And you'll see it kind of sets it up very easily where straight away you can start adding questions. Now on the free, you can do flashcard statements, multiple choice, true, false, or this thing called blocks. And I'll show you blocks in a minute because it's kind of interesting. So primarily you're going to be using these three for whatever you'd be doing. So if you wanted a multiple choice, you can put in your multiple choice question, put in your correct answer at the top, and then options. You can even put in a little hint. So if students are struggling, they can get a hint. I don't know why it's saying please enter a question. That was not there before. We'll see. All right. So now we've got it in. I can preview it. And this is exactly what it would look like for your learners. So your question would be here at the top. Here are the buttons. So if I were to pick nope, it's giving some thinking time for me to change my mind. It's like, no, try again. But nothing. No. Like read the question. Yay, now I got it right. So you can see the answer's now been given and the student would now get to play the game. So what that means is the way this works is that the students actually would get to play a little game of their selection based on them getting answers right to your quiz. Okay. So you can put in as many questions as you want there. And then when they are getting questions right, they're getting more time to play the game of their choice. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's like little video games that they can play, but they have to earn their time by going through your quiz or your game there. So they're kind of getting a double game. So you can continue creating those questions like with flashcard statements. You can say, again, buffalo, and then word for buffalo. And that would make a little flashcard. So for that, you can see they'd be practicing there. And then once they practice that flashcard, then they would get some time to play the game. So it goes through that way throughout. Now you can also see, should you choose to do the upgraded version of Oodloo, there are other options that you can add where you can listen to the word and then type the translation, which would be great for language learning. You can do some sequencing. So putting things in order, typing the missing word, lots of phonics options. And then also things with matching pairs and clicking the missing word. So lots of other options should you want to go that route. The last one we haven't done is and I'll show you what that one looks like. So is this true or false? How about true? Yay. And again, because I got a right answer, I would have a little time to play my game. So that's really the basics of how the Oodloo part works. But I do want to show you one thing back on the dashboard. So you'll see here you've got lots of things. You can go to analytics and see how your students are doing. I don't have any students, so not much information there, but it does actually keep track of that. It'll tell you kids that they feel like are struggling. So it does have some decent free analytics. But other stuff is what I want you to look at is blocks. So blocks is one of the options that you can use. And they have a number of things here where you can do things about internet safety and voting, fractions. But this blocks one is if you want your students to work on spatial reasoning. So if I go back and I'm going to create a question collection, I'm going to call this blocks because we're just going to try out blocks. Go down to the blocks option and you can see it's like Legos online. So what you do is you actually create a Lego thing here. way there. This. That. And then students would be given this and they can flip it around, really, you know, look it over, and then they have to recreate it. So I don't know how often this would come up in each of our programs and the various things that we do, but it did seem pretty cool, particularly if you are trying to work on spatial reasoning. You'll see it's got some things here as far as being able to make it bigger so you can really look at it. You can reset it if you're like, no, that is not what I was trying to do. You can take a snapshot and it'll save it as a picture on your desktop for you. And then you can also turn off those noises if that's a bit much. So just kind of an interesting thing, again, available completely for free. And we'll save that. That's my super simple first question of blocks. But you can put in all these questions and it will create this spatial reasoning quiz for you. So again, not sure how often that would come up for you, but kind of an interesting little add-on to the OODLoo beyond just kind of a general quiz game that then rewards the students with the additional more video game experience for answering your quiz questions. Any questions on the OODLoo piece? And I know we're going through quite a few things, so remember as you go forth and try these out on your own, that you can always reach out to us with questions. We love to see what you're creating and making. So we're going to go back. We are not going to go and do demos of these other resources, but just some other things that you might want to explore if you're interested in incorporating more games into your program. So I know a lot of people at the top of the hour said that they use Kahoot for gaming. That's a great resource. It has a very robust free option, lots of quiz questions that you can do. Kids can play it on their own. You can play it in the classroom. You can do teams, individual. Some others that you might not be as familiar with. So there is this one called Gamelab. So Gamelab has 3 different types of games that you can create for your students, either a King of the Mountain game, an explore game where they kind of go on like a scavenger hunt, or a bike race. And again, you can do that on whatever content you would like to include in that. But then they go on one of these 3 adventures. So that's the Gamelab option. The WISC Online is one that has about 20 different game types. That's another one that's free. Those games, though, tend to be kind of your more traditional, I think, of classroom games. So it's things like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, a classroom baseball, creating an interactive crossword puzzle. So it has lots of those games already created for you that you can pop your information into and then use online, or again, you know, whether you're back in person learning, be able to maybe project and play or have the students independent play. The last one is Bamboozle. Bamboozle is a little bit more like the options where you can, a little bit like Kahoot, as far as being able to kind of create your own types of quizzes in that way, and games around questions, and then they can move forward and create a leaderboard, but it's just set up a little bit differently. But another one that again has a really robust free option and is just something a little bit new and different looking. So if you're wanting to branch out from Kahoot, Bamboozle is another good option. So like I said, we're not going to go into depth on those, but just some other things that you can explore on your own if you're interested in incorporating more games. The last thing that I wanted to show you, though, in our time together today is a different type of game. So instead of thinking of our more traditional games that we do with our students, being able to actually create a scavenger hunt for your students. This could be a scavenger hunt for, again, when you're in person and you're going to break into teams and you're going to go forth. But the cool thing is that even if you're in virtual learning, you can have the students working in teams and they're all doing different parts of the scavenger hunt and contributing to the overall winning of the team. Or you can have them do it independently. So it can be an individual scavenger hunt or a team. But I love that they can be working in a team, even if they're all at their own individual homes. So I'll show you how this one works. And this will be our last little walkthrough here. So if we hop back over, we'll jump into Goose Chase. So Goose Chase is the scavenger hunt app. I'll show you a created one so that you can kind of see how that works. So you'll see you can put an image so that your students can kind of identify a name and a description. The location is because if you end up putting anything into your scavenger hunt where the students maybe have to locate something, then the location becomes helpful because it can use GPS coordinates to show like they really did go to the spot you told them to go to, or they really did look at whatever. And then you can always put a password on it as well, particularly if you want to restrict it to just your students, you can put that. And then once you're in, you'll see there's a list of missions. So missions are all the things that your students have to do in order to complete their scavenger hunt. They have lots of suggested missions that you can use or tweak, and then you can also come up with things completely on your own. So you can see find 2 green cars side by side. Pretty random, not that academic. Whereas prove a well-known mathematical theorem on a chalkboard or window, very academic, but very high level. Find the definition of scavenger hunt in a dictionary. You have all kinds of things, and you can see some of them say videos only. That means that for that one, the students can't just take a picture to prove that they did it, like they would be able to do with the definition of scavenger hunt, but they actually have to submit a video to prove that they did that particular item. So find somebody that speaks another language and ask them to teach your team a song in that language. Take a video of your team singing it together. So you would have to submit a video to make that one happen. So you can see you can make this as silly for more of a team building type thing, or you can make it really content driven where they're actually going to be doing maybe academic things. You could make it very specific to your community where maybe they're going to be creating different things and visiting different things in the community. If you want them to be able to do it from home, think about things that they could find or do within their home or within their backyard. So just some kind of things to think about for your scavenger hunt. But you'll see I've got all these different things. I can scroll them around and put them in different orders. I can edit them. So you can change the name, the description. You can add an image if you want to maybe give them an example, attach a link, maybe to more details or to backup information. This is where you can choose, will you take photos and videos, photos only, or videos only? So you can set those restrictions. You can determine how they have to capture. So live capture only, or media can be taken within the app or outside the app. So that means that they could potentially be uploading something they just found on the internet. You can add some automation. So basically where maybe at a certain time, different missions are added. Again, just making it even more complicated should you want to. And then you can also change the point value. So you can do any of the suggested points or type your own. So if I wanted to be really difficult, I can do 111 points because why not? And then you can see the point value, how many you have at each point. how many missions total you have. You can go to the mission bank. So this is where you can find all the examples that they think work well in a scavenger hunt. You can also create your own bank. So if you really get into this, you can start creating lots of options on your own and then actually create your own bank of things. And it'll also save if you've had previous scavenger hunts. So lots of fun options there. You can see, you can even have like a game script. So basically when the game starts, these are the available missions. After so long, they'll get a notification of encouragement. So you're doing great, can't wait to see your videos, and then what time it'll end. So you can actually schedule those things in. That's part of that automation. You can upload images. So if you have like a program logo, you could always include that. You can determine whether this is going to be played by teams or by individual players. You can even pre-create the teams if you want. And then this is how you can start and stop. So we had a preset start and stop for this game, but you can also do it automatic. So you can do manual or automatic. Just some different options there. And then once they're in the game, so notice this is on my in-game menu, you would be able to see as the students or as your staff, because I think this could be a really fun activity for your staff, maybe even familiarizing them with your building or your campus. Everything they're doing is going to show up in your activity feed. So you see as they're submitting things here. You have your leaderboard to be able to see who's winning. And then you can, this is where you can actually see their submissions by mission. So you'd be able to go into each mission and see what the folks have done. And then they have some reporting as well. So lots of options there for things you can do to create your own scavenger hunt. It is a ton of fun. It's pretty easy to set up. All of this is free. Of course, just like with anything, there's always those upgraded options, but everything I'm showing you, you can do on their free account. So most of the stuff is available on the free one, which I like. You can set up multiple. It does on the free account limit you to only having one scavenger hunt live at a time, but most likely you're not trying to have more than one live at any given time. So you can have some others created that just don't go live until later. But just another really fun thing, particularly as we think about maybe spending more time outdoors and making it really active. So that is Goose Chase. Any questions on Goose Chase?
No questions.
All right.
Okay.
So we're going to switch back. So if you have questions about any of the pieces that we've talked about today, please feel free to pop those in the chat box or unmute and ask your questions. Happy to answer any of those. And I'm also just curious, does one of these maybe particularly seem interesting to you? Does one of them seem like it might be something you want to try in your program? And if so, what type of content do you think you're going to try out with that particular game option? Anything really ring a bell for you today? And I'll let you either type in the chat box or, like I said, you're welcome to unmute and share. We have enough time for people to be able to talk. All right, while you're thinking how you might use this, if there's a particular game you want to try out, I am going to pop up then our poll, because I know we have some people who will likely have to hop to other events. So I'll pop up our final poll here. Like I said, curious if any of these seem particularly interesting today. Tried to go with some that you maybe hadn't seen quite as much. All right, and as you're finishing up the poll, we're going to share also a few upcoming events. So as we're going through, we do have 2 more distance learning sessions this year. So we are wrapping up the series. We have student engagement coming up, and oddly, those are not the right dates. I'm not sure how that one got in, but it will actually be not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. So that means that it will be on Tuesday the 18th, May 18th. And then our virtual share fair will be on June 1st. Okay. So on June 1st is when we really want all of you to share, what have you been doing that's been working really well for you, whether that's a particular tool or program. Maybe you tried something we talked about in an earlier session, and it's really working well. But it'll be an opportunity for all of us to really share what we've been doing in the online space. And then the rest of the month, we have lots of talking circles. So we have demo coming up next Thursday, STEP coming up next Wednesday, NOL at the end of the month on Thursday, May 27th, as well as office hours that day. And remember, office hours are our general 1 hour that we have open each month for people to be able to pop in and out with any questions they might have. And I do see that, yeah, we had a few pieces here. Jamie sharing that she wants to try out the Flippity. Yeah, I find that one super cool. And I know we've had some grantees try it out in the past and enjoy it. Using Goose Chase in the community with native language, definitely. I'm glad it was helpful to see them demonstrated. Yeah, I know it's just a brief demonstration, but hopefully it helps kind of get that ball rolling. And they do have really good help resources on most of these. And Laura, you've already shared with your teachers, so you were on it. Like I said, as you're working with them, as you're trying them out, or your staff is trying them out, please know that we're happy to answer questions after this. I know a lot of times those questions don't pop up until you actually hop in and are trying it yourself. So know that you can always reach back out after these events and ask questions about any of the topics that we've shared with you. We really want to help make them work in your programs. And then our final tidbit today, just our normal reminder of our contact info for all of your program officers, as well as all of us over at the OIETA team. Like I said, you're always welcome to reach out with questions. I know everyone is probably breathing a sigh of relief that your APRs are in now and you can not think about them for a while. So if you have questions about other things, now you have a little time maybe to dig into some of these distance learning resources, let us know. You'll see over in the chat box that Rashad has conveniently placed the link to our feedback survey. We would greatly appreciate if you would take just 2 or 3 minutes. We're ending just a few minutes early, so you can have time to do this before even the block of time is up on your calendar. So you can just click that Survey Monkey link. It pops up, super short, literally a 2 to 3 minute survey, but the information is extremely helpful for us. It's what we use to design your future sessions and make sure that we're really meeting your needs as best as possible. So that's my plug for the survey and completing that. If you have any other questions, we do have just a couple of minutes here at the end, and I'm happy to answer any of those that you might have. Otherwise, we'll see you on various events throughout the month.